right. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the lab. Hope you guys have all enjoyed the last 2 weeks of episodes in regards to tailoring the conditioning of the athlete, as well as the little 40-20 split on intervals that I discussed earlier last week. With me today, I'm really pumped about this. We have Terrance Motley from BYU. He is the director of football rehabilitation. I'm really excited for this because we just had a little bit of discussion before, and we got a few topics for you guys that we're pretty excited to bring to you guys. And Terrance, thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thanks for having me on. This is exciting.
Perfect. So, Terrance, before we kind of dive into the weeds on strength and conditioning in the physical therapy world and training through pain, what we're going to start off with, because you have a very unique background, is you started as a strength and conditioning coach, and then now you're the director of football rehabilitation as a physical therapist. So, for all of our viewers, we have a contingency of people who are already practicing as clinicians. We have physical therapy students, and then we also have some kids in undergrad who also pay attention to the lab. So, if you wouldn't mind, tell us your journey, man. Let us know a little bit more about you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, like I told you before the start, I'm just a kid from Albuquerque, man. Like, grew up in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Um, Came out here to BYU to go to school. I was a walk-on football player. It's like I gotta walk on somewhere, and BYU was kind of always the goal. So, came out here during undergrad. I played a year of football. Well, I practiced a year of football. Scout team All American right here. Uh, and then I played 2 years of rugby. And then as I was doing that, I got really tight with my strength coaches.
Hmm.
And I actually thought about, like, at first I wanted to be a PT in undergrad. And then I saw that I had to take, like, here you had to take like OChem and all kinds of other stuff. And I was like, yeah, I'd hard pass. So my strength coaches were like, hey, you're pretty good at this lifting thing. Like, you ever thought about being a strength coach? I
Hmm.
said, no, but I'll think about it now. Right. So I ended up changing my major and it's called exercise and wellness here. It's basically a kines degree.
Yeah.
And so I did that. Interned with football, rugby, baseball while I was here. And then when I graduated, I did an internship at LSU with Tommy Moffitt, who's now at Texas A&M.
Yeah.
That was awesome. That was one of the best experiences I've ever had.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and so that from there, I got a graduate assistant job at the University of Louisiana down in Lafayette.
Mhm.
And then I was there for 2 years after I graduated with my master's in kines. While I was doing that, went to University of Colorado for 2 years and worked there with their football team. It was 2017 and 2018. And then 2018, we didn't have an awesome season. And as is wont to happen in college football, a bunch of us got let go. And at the time, my wife was pregnant with our third kid. And I was like, hey, you know what? I don't know if this transient lifestyle is going to be super compatible with, having a big family. So decided to go back to school and
Hmm.
go to PT school ultimately. And things kind of worked out really cool. We ended up moving back to Utah. I lived with family for a little bit because I didn't really have a job and I was trying to get into school. But
Yeah.
came back to BYU. I had to take some old courses again because my coursework was too old, even though I had a master's degree in kinesiology. So I had to retake some courses, retake the GRE. I got a tech job, just a PT tech job with a friend of mine
Hmm.
uh, who had got hired at a clinic, and I ended up teching there eventually full time, just kind of absorbing all the PT stuff there. And
Okay.
so as I was doing that, ended up getting into PT school just down here in Provo at Rocky Mountain University, and that was back in 2020. So that was right when all the COVID stuff happened, and
Oh boy.
my first year of PT school basically completely online. So it was a nice welcome to physical therapy school there.
Jeez, Pete.
Yeah. So did that program while I was there. One of my professors, his name was Colby Clausen. He was a BYU football alum, and he at the time was teaching, and then also he was a strength and conditioning coach at a high school just around here. And so
Nice.
he and I vibed really, really well, just because we had similar backgrounds and similar thoughts on therapy and everything. While I was in my last clinical, he ended up getting a job here at BYU as kind of an associate AD over human performance.
Yeah.
And he opened up a lane because we didn't have a directed rehab person. They would contract out with PT, and then the athletic trainers would kind of just take over some of the rehab here.
Hmm. Okay.
And so he decided to create this directive rehab position. And just a few months after I graduated, and I was working for the kind of local hospital system, I ended up getting hired over here. So a nice scenic route to get into PT, but here we are.
Very nice. I love it. I absolutely love that, man. You mentioned you played rugby. I know we've already kind of talked about this a little bit more, but go a little bit more into your rugby background.
So I had not even heard of rugby until I got up here. So back in New Mexico, I mean, they didn't have rugby when I was growing up. You just
Hmm.
played football and you threw, like if you were a big guy, you played offensive line and then you threw the shot put and discus, and that was all you did, right? So I came up here, I walked onto the football team and I ended up making it. But I remember at the walk-on tryouts, the rugby coach stepped up and he's like, "Hey, if you don't end up making the team, we're always looking for guys over here." And so when I ended up getting cut from the football team, I actually knew a lot of the rugby boys, and they were like, "Hey, you should just come play." Like, oh, okay. So ended up switching from a 315-pound offensive lineman to a 235-pound prop.
Oh,
Yeah, big swing. Um,
Jesus.
but no, I loved rugby, man. Like, I learned how to play, and I fell in love with the sport. So played for 2 years. We won two national championships when we were here, and those were the glory days.
Oh, I love it. Oh, I
You're a
love
number two, right?
Yep, I played rugby as well. Say Forward Unite.
Yeah, boy,
No, I was a flanker, so I mean, the pack's got to stick together, right?
absolutely, man. They don't they don't call it a pack for nothing. Just a bunch of wolves out there.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. I mean, we're probably the ones. I mean, we get the most stuff done on the field. I'll put it that way.
Let's be honest here. Like, we don't score the most tries, but we know where the real work's at.
Exactly. We set the framework.
Exactly.
Oh no, I love it. I love it. No, man. So with your background in strength and conditioning and everything that we've kind of talked about so far in terms of your journey from being a strength and conditioning coach and now being the director of rehabilitation for the football team, since you've now gone through physical therapy school, what would you say are some of the, I guess the missing pieces in physical therapy curriculums nowadays, and like where maybe we need to start making some changes?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, and it's hindsight's always 2020. And I had such a different view going into PT school, just having had the strength and conditioning experience, right? So,
Hmm.
we get into our therapeutic exercise class, and I'm like, oh hell yeah, let's go, man! Like, this is what I know.
Yeah.
And the entirety of the class was like PNF. I'm like, what is this? Like, this isn't rehab exercise, right? And so yeah, it was really weird. But I know things are getting better. Like, I know you're doing some cool stuff with Dayton, and
Hmm.
I think things are getting better across the board. But
Yeah.
just the biggest glaring thing that I see is we're not actually teaching anything about exercise prescription, progression, regression. And I mean, it doesn't need to be, graduate level stuff. But I mean, rehab is exercise and exercise is rehab, right? So just simple principles are the thing that we're just glossing over and just kind of taking for granted. I mean, I can't tell you how many students I've seen that every exercise they do is 3 by 10, and there's never any like, oh, hey, how do we make this harder? How do we make this easier? Right.
Hmm.
And I'm like, dude, it's really not that difficult. Like, we're just not teaching it. Right. And I think it's a lack of knowledge on the professor's part. Right. I think there's enough professors out there that just don't know this stuff kind of like we know it.
Hmm.
It's not their fault. They just haven't been exposed to it.
Yeah. You don't know what you don't know. I agree with you 100%. I think that's something that, like, as a whole, our profession needs to, like, well, I guess I think we're afraid of loading people because we don't actually understand the integrity and like the resilience the human body actually has. And like having a solid background in exercise physiology and then the strength conditioning principles that go along with like you were talking about earlier, programming, periodization. Like if you can nail those things down, rehab isn't so like I guess it's not rocket science. Like you nail
Yeah,
down the basics. Come on.
it's crazy too, because I mean, I think there's something to be said about you as a practitioner
Mhm.
having put yourself under a bar, right? And
Yes.
like you yourself having exposed yourself to, you know, heavy weights and like crazy stupid programs. Like, I've done some programs. I'm like, there's no way I should have survived that, right?
Yep.
And like somehow I did. I've seen it in the collegiate setting. Like, guys do these workouts, and I'm like, how does anybody survive this and not get rhabdo, right? And like these guys, they adapt. And so when you can look at it that, like, you look at that end of the spectrum, you
Yeah.
realize that everything under that is a freaking cakewalk. Like,
Hmm.
you can do a lot with a lot of people, and really, it's really not that dangerous. It's just you have to know how to scale it up and down.
Exactly. And then knowing dose response, like you see it and like how you need like, oh gosh, you want to move to Ohio?
Hey, I mean, if you're paying, I'm coming.
Game on. Game on. That'd be so much fun. No, that's actually one of the things that I actually look in for. Like, like with clinicians, like when we look for new hires, like I want to make sure, like, do you think everyone should have a CSCS? I'm curious,
I,
or
here's
just a
the thing.
background in strength conditioning.
I think some sort of even a perfunctory knowledge in strength
Yeah.
and conditioning will get you way farther than right. Even if
Hmm.
you don't have a certification, I
Hmm.
mean, even if you're just a gym bro that likes to train, that's going to
Hmm.
send you way farther than somebody who doesn't lift at all, right?
I agree.
And like I catch a lot of flack like on my like meathead rehab page because I call out people that don't lift, and it's more just for jokey stuff, but like in reality, that's such an important thing, right? Like if you can't expose yourself to the stress, how on earth am I supposed to expose a patient to that when they're
Exactly.
in a spot where they're already vulnerable, right?
Hmm.
Like they need to see that I can walk the walk a little bit. It gives you a little bit of ethos with a patient when they say, "Oh, well, this guy looks like he knows what he's talking about," right? And so, that being said, I don't know that everybody needs a CSCS necessarily. I
Hmm.
think the CSCS gives you the most kind of credibility. I mean, it's an awesome organization. I've had my CSCS for over 10 years now.
Hmm.
Um, and I think the level of education that you get from the CSCS is going to be way better than, like a weekend CPT course or something like that. But I think anything is better than nothing.
Agreed. I agree. I definitely think if we can start making that more widespread, or at least like even making changes in like you were already talking about, like with like getting underneath the barbell, like changes in curriculum that actually emphasize like exercise physiology and getting into the nuances of what happens to these tissues when they're experienced to load or over time experienced to a particular stimulus. I think like it's funny because you ask kids to like if I'm going to program for conditioning in the rehab setting, right? And they look at you like, "Oh shit, you want me to do what?" It's like it's not that scary. Like we got to do a few numbers and assessments, but then like you can start making these adjustments. Like I have a runner right now, and my student. It was funny the first time that we started going through. Like he wants to run a marathon at the end of the month, and he's been making great progress. It's like, so how do we start doing a return to run program for him? Like he needs to be able to run this. He wants to be able to run this, and it's like the lights, like the everything's moving. It's just like they're afraid to like actually like put them through that. It's like it's not that scary.
Yeah, dude, it's really not. And I think again, I think the education piece of that is like when you can reverse engineer something, right? Like that's one of the big things in strength and conditioning is you work backwards from the end goal. And
Hmm.
that's like pounded into your head as a strength coach. Like, hey, whatever the end goal is, whether that's performance, whether that's a peak for like a powerlifting meet, something like that, you got
Hmm.
to work backwards in the steps and figure out how am I going to get to there in this amount of time and program accordingly, right? And so if I've got somebody that wants to sprint in 16 weeks after knee surgery, like I better figure out how the hell to get them there.
Exactly.
Again, if you know how to do it, it's really not that bad. You just say, okay, well, let's work backwards from a sprint, figure out what goes into that, and then, off we go.
That is, we can just get that in the programs. I think we'll be moving forward as a profession, like 110%.
1 million%, man. Like I tell my students now, even because I mean, I get very little time to talk to them about actual exercise stuff, and if I had hair, I'd rip it out. But it's crazy because I just tell them like, hey, you're getting this little snippet here in school.
Hmm.
It's on you to get the rest of everything else that you got to know. And
Exactly.
so I try to direct everybody like, hey, you can get a CSCS, get it. At least if you can buy like the NSCA Essentials book, buy it and read it, right? Like
Yep.
it'll give you so much information that's so useful and it'll really simplify all the rehab exercise stuff for you.
Yeah, I agree with you. That's just having a base knowledge. Just get your foot in the door and then practice with it. I think one of the things that we talked about in the lecture that we just did about 2 weeks ago was, it's one thing to have all this knowledge and like being able to like write out a program, but then go through it yourself. Like be the guinea pig. Like practice around with it. See like do like a before and after test and retest and see what your programming does for you. Maybe you need to make more individual choices, but like just you got to start
Yeah,
somewhere.
yeah. I had two students come and work with me last fall from Rocky Mountain, so I opened up a clinical rotation here,
Smart,
and
nice.
part of their whole rotation I said, hey, the first 4 weeks, we're going to teach some stuff. And the last 8 weeks, you're going to program for yourself and
Mhm.
you're going to figure out what works and doesn't. And like both of the kids, they ended up getting a little stronger, but they felt like within 2, 3 weeks, they're like, oh man, I probably have to change this. I probably have to, this is a little too hard or this is way easy. And I'm like, this is valuable knowledge you guys are getting right now because it's too easy for you. It's probably going to be too easy for a patient. It might not be enough, right?
Mhm.
Like dude, I wish we could just take all Therex classes and just say, hey, all we're going to do is we're going to spend 12 weeks in a gym and you're going to learn how to work out, how to program for yourself. And if you fail, that's on you.
Yeah. No, see that or even put them in like groups of two where like they program for the other person.
Yeah,
And if they're not making progress, who do you think that's on?
right.
You know what I mean? Oh man. See, let's make a class. We're just gonna
Let's
make
start our own PT school. How about that?
let's just do it. We'll
Yeah,
do
I got a number of guys who would sign up.
it. No, I think another thing, so kind of going into my next question, one of the things I've also seen like with developing, PT students and even some clinicians is that we're terribly afraid of putting people under load, but then also having people train through pain. And that I think and actually this is what led me to you because I remember you had actually posted, I think you were doing deadlifts. And that's how I found your page. You were doing deadlifts, and then you were talking about, so guess what I'm going to do? And then you showed in the next video you were doing deadlifts. I was like, hell yeah! Like this is awesome. Like this is my guy. He preaches it, he works it, he's doing it. So like, tell me a little bit more about like what you think about like training through pain, and then maybe some of the nuances that you maybe educated your students with.
Yeah, no, this is a great question, and this is something I'm pretty adamant about. So a lot of this is born out of me being a teenage ego lifter, right? Like, I don't care if it hurts, I'm gonna do it anyway, right? I gotta put the weight up. But what I realize is as I've done that more and more throughout my life,
Mhm.
that like things just get better, right? Like if I can kind of cap the pain at a certain amount, like okay, if I can train below this amount of pain, like I know I can train probably around here. It might hurt, but like it'll get better,
Mhm.
right? Like I realize that opens up a whole world, right? So one of my buddies, you might follow him. His name's Q Willie. He's another Instagram lord out there, but he posted a video a long time ago, like him like dressed up like a doctor. It's like, well, if it hurts, just don't do it. Like just go complete rest, right?
Yes.
And like that's what we find so much of, and there's
Yeah.
so much of it in the PT profession, especially, right?
Mhm.
Like, well, my PT told me that if this hurts, that I just shouldn't do it. I'm like, that's so backwards. Like, if it's something that's important to you, why are you going to stop?
Exactly.
Like, if brushing your teeth hurts because it makes your gums bleed, like, you should probably brush more. You freaking gross individual, right? Like, it's like, yeah, there's things you have to do that are important, right?
Mhm.
And that doesn't mean that we train through immense amounts of pain, right? But if it's a little uncomfortable, or if it's something that's going to push you and hopefully make you better, and it's not really making you worse, then like why not push through? Why not learn to be tough, right?
Yeah.
It's like kind of system I use with my guys. The biggest exception that I find to this before I actually jump into that is fresh people from like post ops. So like they just had surgery on like a shoulder or knee.
Yeah.
I'm a little more careful about pain then, just because I don't want to mess up a brand new surgery. Like, that's
Understandable.
an easy way to get myself fired. So I'd rather not go down that path. I got 5 kids to feed.
Oh,
But
geez.
yeah. Yeah. Oh, Jesus, right. Yeah. But no, so like, but even my shoulders and knees and stuff like that, I'll say, hey, if it's a little uncomfortable, we're good. Like, and you
Mhm.
know the difference between discomfort and pain. Most patients will.
Mhm.
They'll know when something's a little. I like to use the word spicy. And say if it's a little spicy, we're fine. If it's
Mhm.
painful, we'll back off, right? And so then once you kind of get further along, like I mean, so part of what I do here is I have my PT guys obviously, but then in our training sessions, so I work with our strength and conditioning staff, and I do modified training for maybe guys who are like post ops who can't lift with a certain limb, or guys who have like tendinopathies that are a little banged up, maybe certain exercises hurt them. Right, we find ways to train.
Yeah.
So I get guys every session who will run up and say, "Oh, hey, Coach T, like this hurts," and I'll say, "Well, did you try to do the lift?" That's my first question, right? If they say, "Hey, I don't know if I can squat today," I go, "Did you try?" And sometimes they're like, "Well, no." And I'm like, "Well, then don't talk to me until you've tried." And so I'd say half the time they'll go over and start doing it, and then something warms up and they feel fine and they can go, right?
Yep.
The other half of the time they'll come over and say, "Oh, well, it hurt once I got to 225, 275." All right, well, just stop there. Like hold that weight and just squat there until it either doesn't hurt or it gets worse. And then like if that then doesn't work, say they get there and it's like, okay, it's getting worse, then maybe we find a different way. Like maybe we don't back squat, maybe we do a goblet squat, maybe we do a tempo, maybe we do a front squat even, right? Sometimes even just flipping from a back squat to a front squat or vice versa can
Mhm.
change up a whole profile, right? And get rid of a lot of pain. Um, and so, yeah, like I tell them that, hey, I'm good with about a 4, maybe a 5 out of 10 pain wise.
Yeah.
If you feel like you can push through it, right? 4 is usually where I draw the cap, and then if you feel like you can push through a 5, push through a 5.
Yeah.
Right. That's usually kind of where I gauge, and then that's going to be different for everybody. Right. But at the end of the day, I tell my guys all the time, like, just be tough, man. Like, football's a hard game. Like, you can't expect to feel good out on the field all the time.
Yeah.
You get your freaking ear hold on a play. You're not going to go off the next play and be like, no, my neck hurts. Like, you're going to stay out there and you're going to get your revenge back, right? Like, so I tell them all the time, it's the same in training. Like, if you don't train it here, you're not going to be tough on the field. You got to
Mhm.
learn to put the pain here. But I mean, it's really the same in all physical therapy, right? Like, life is never going to be pain free. And like anybody that expects that, but there's a great line. You're as old as me. I'm sure you've seen The Princess Bride.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, there's a great line. He says, life is pain. Anybody who tells you different is selling something, right?
Yep.
Like, you got to learn to deal with pain in life. It is just what it is. But I mean, I know there's been a lot of research on pain and
Mhm.
pain threshold versus like pain free training. And I mean, the
Yes.
pain threshold people always get better faster, even if it's
Mhm.
just objectively. Like, there's something to be said about just making the brain work a little bit.
Man, I'm so glad you brought that up. That is a fantastic caveat to talk about. Is like, you know, what is a degree of pain? I mean, I know you kind of gave us like the ranges, like, get to a 4. If you don't, if you can go to a 5, you can push to a 5, do it. But like that, I feel like when you get into like, I guess, more sports setting versus like general orthopedics, sometimes those people have a terrible insight. So like, how do you go about like, use like way too many times there. How do you go about how do you go about working with that general orthopedic population when it's like they don't have that great insight to their body? They don't have that great insight into pain tolerance. How do you go about educating students for that?
Yeah, that's all. It's more just a semantics question, right? Like,
Hmm.
I go back to, it's one of the first things I said. It's you tell somebody, I'm okay with discomfort, I just don't want pain, right? Most people can dissociate between this is a little uncomfortable versus this is painful.
Hmm.
And so obviously there's the really pain averse people who anything they're going to shut it down, right?
Yeah.
I feel like 90% of people can say, all right, this is uncomfortable and now this is painful, right? So you could even say like anything sharp, shooting, stabbing, like whatever we want to back off. It's a little dull, a little achy, like something like that's probably okay. Right. And so you can really break it out as much as you feel like you want to. But again, I'm just a simple heathen. And so I'd say, hey, if it's uncomfortable, yeah, we're fine. If it's painful, let's back off. And then you could probably get pretty far with that, honestly.
I like it. I like it. Oh man. So in terms of physical therapy and um, I guess student development, you said you guys take on students. Is there any particular time of the year you guys take on students?
So right now I'm only with Rocky Mountain.
Okay.
Like the guy who runs clinical education, my advisor, PT schools, me and him are like this.
Cool.
So he sends us a student during the fall
Mhm.
season, so like during our actual playing season,
Yeah.
during winter, so like January to March. So we just got done with my last student that was here. She was a stud. And it was awesome. She was great to have. But basically over there you can put in for the internship and then they kind of work with me and we kind of handpick people a little bit.
Hmm.
So, yeah, so I do take students, but nobody put in this year, which is shocking actually, because I thought somebody would. But so I won't have another student until January. It's gonna be me, myself, and I.
Well, maybe if you're interested, maybe we could talk later about some other opportunities. That could be fun.
We can definitely figure that out.
That could be, oh man, that could be so much fun.
Yeah.
Uh, so let's go more into conditioning and rehab. I'm curious to see your thoughts on, we were kind of talking about conditioning, just the basic principles. How do you think we could start talking about um, conditioning in the physical therapy setting? Like, because I guess not many schools are going to dive as much. I mean, it's probably better for most people to learn how to do a barbell, all the barbell lifts and like just learning how to, load management, placement, like you were saying, like the variations and modifications. How could we like maybe implement a basis into schools with conditioning?
Yeah, so I will admit, like I fall into the classic strength coach trope of being a strength coach and not a conditioning coach.
Okay.
That's just me.
Okay.
But that being said, I mean, there's some good literature out there. I mean, there's
Mhm.
so much out there on conditioning and what you can and can't do. Joel Jamieson's book is really good.
Yep.
It's the MMA conditioning, right?
Yep.
That one's probably one of the better ones, just because it's pretty simple and it breaks it down to energy systems, right?
Yes.
And when you can just look at that, I mean, it's all exercise phys, right? So
Mhm.
if you break it down to energy systems, you can condition just about anything. Like if I have somebody that's a runner or somebody that, is a distance person
Mhm.
that has an ACL and can't run, like, yeah, we're going to do longer duration, lower intensity stuff. Like, it's really not that hard to do. You can just mimic the demands of the sport.
Mhm.
My like big offensive linemen that get hurt, right? I mean, those guys, they work in bouts of 5 to 10 seconds tops, and
Mhm.
that's about it. So, like, I don't need to crush them for 4 or 5 minutes at a time. Like, we could just get big repeated bouts of 5, 10 seconds that are super intense, and I'll freaking smoke those clowns, right? And then, like, maybe running backs, wide receivers, they need maybe a little bit more because wide receiver has to run a route. Maybe it's going to take him, same time, 5, 10 seconds, but then he's got to jog back and do stuff. So then maybe you get into a little more like tempo type training or fartlek training, if you want to call it that, right? Like, where it's kind of high intensity, low intensity. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's really just, again, it's all of this reverse engineering, right? You just look at the demands of what the person wants to do, and you just build something into the demands. Right? If I got a guy who can't run because of his shoulder, like, well, we got a great assault bike out there, and assault bike sprinting is almost harder than normal sprinting,
Oh,
at least energy wise.
I was gonna say that thing is a nightmare.
Yeah, it's awful, right? But again, the body's a whole system, and I think a lot of guys, they love me and they hate me because they know as soon as they get hurt, they're going to get crushed. When the team's out there running, if a guy can't run, it's like, well, you get to go up to the second floor of old Uncle T, right? We're gonna keep on the assault bikes and the rower and all that stuff. But again, it's important because those guys come back then, and now they haven't skipped a beat because they haven't just been sitting on their butts for 3 months.
Conditioning.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to start crazy. I mean, even a guy who's fresh post op of an ACL, he can't run. Well, he can get on a bike. He can do one leg and just kind of go nice and easy, right? Crushing him right away is not really going to do a whole lot for us. But even if you can just get him like, hey, let's hop on the bike for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and just go real slow, where your heart rate's just barely elevated, like, that's going to do way more
Oh
than
yeah.
just having him sit around.
That is probably one of my biggest it's like with where we're at right now. I have probably one of my biggest pet peeves is when people market themselves as sports therapists and then you see them like just what they're doing with the patients in the clinic and it's like you market yourself as a sports therapist, but like you like they're doing bird dogs, they're doing curl ups. It's like sweet, like where are the actual weights? Where's the conditioning aspect? Like this is not sports therapy. This is you try to do your own thing and it's nice and it's pretty and it's yours, but you're selling a oh man, that's a whole different topic for another day. But
Selling a bill of goods at that point.
exactly, it drives me absolutely insane when like and there's no like basis of actual like conditioning or strength principles. It just pisses me off when they say that they're a sports physical therapist.
Yeah, just because you work with athletes doesn't mean you're a sports physical therapist. Like,
Thank you.
that's the yeah, that bugs me as well.
Yeah, that drives me mad. So I have one question, and then we'll wrap things up here. If you had three things that you could maybe relay to physical therapy students right now, or people in undergrad right now, um, in terms of progressing that want to be in athletics like you are, what would you say would be some three maybe like tips or maybe some like musts if that's the setting you want to be in?
Yeah, no, great question. So the a couple of things that helped me, obviously, just from my journey. So number one is connections, right? Like, nothing happens in the sports world without you knowing somebody.
Hmm.
And that's just the unfortunate reality of it, right? You can't just kind of barge in there and just make a name. Like, you kind of have to know people.
Hmm.
So making connections, I mean, it could be as easy as like when I before I even got this job, I rocketed off like probably 100 emails to people around the country. Like, the guy who does this job at Clemson, his name is Ryan Ross. Like, I still talk to him every now and then. There's a guy at University of Washington, Georgia. Like, I shot off a ton of emails like, hey, this is me, this is what I do, this is the job I'm trying to get. Like, how do you operate? What do you do? And like, people, some people won't get back to you, and some people will. Then you kind of know those people, and then you meet more people, and you get connected with more people. And I mean, at any point, any one of those people could have a job open, and then you're the person, right?
Yep.
And so on top of that too, it's connections, and then just showing up. So,
Hmm.
um, like, just showing your face places, right? Like,
Hmm.
go shadow, go intern. Like, I don't know a single like PT, AT in this realm who, if somebody were to say, hey, could I come like watch what you do for a day? Like, that would say no.
Hmm.
I mean, sometimes there's busy points in the season and they got to push it, kick it down the road. I've done that to a million people and I feel awful. But Like, but at the end of the day, it's just, get out there, like put your face in front of somebody so that then when something does come up, you're who they think about. Right.
Mhm.
So connections, getting out there, and then I mean, I guess the last two are kind of connected. I mean, I think they're all connected, but like finding some sort of like internship, mentorship program. So whether that's like learning from a guy who's a strength coach or a PT, doing a strength and conditioning internship, like strength staffs are always looking for interns. Like do a 6 week or a 12 week internship where you just freaking load weights and make protein shakes and yell at guys, right? Like that'll teach you a ton. But you'll learn some good programming principles there. You might learn a little bit about some rehab. A lot of strength coaches actually know some decent rehab stuff, right? Just because they
Mhm.
understand that side of it. So yeah, it's basically all just about who you. And then if you didn't ask for four, but I'm gonna give you a fourth.
I like four. Let's go
It's
for it.
just chase your passions, chase what you're passionate about. If you want to be in athletics, like don't settle for anything else. I mean, I always wanted to. This was kind of my end goal in PT. And when I was in school, I was like, maybe I could, just work in a clinic and be fine. And now I'm like, nah, I'm never going back to a clinic as long as I live. And so, like, but it worked out, right? And so, I think there's something to be said about when you actually put all your energy into something and all your effort, whatever the things align and they work out. So, I would say just pursue your passions and don't settle for less. Bet on yourself.
I love that, man. That was good. Do you have that rehearsed?
Amen. No, it's definitely not sitting on a screen off of this normal screen for me to read off of.
Oh, nice, nice. No, Terrence, thank you so much for joining me today, man. I really appreciate you coming on here today with me.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thanks for the invite, man. This was awesome. I love talking shop and nerding out about meathead stuff.
Oh yeah. Oh, well, we might have to bring you back. We'll definitely nerd out on a few more things, but uh,
Anytime, man.
but everybody, I really hope everyone enjoyed the conversation between Terrence and I today. I'll be putting this episode up here probably in about 2 weeks. So, in the meantime, make sure you guys get caught up. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out. Make sure you guys go follow Terrence, and I'll be putting up his Instagram tag here with the episode. So we will see you guys in the next episode.